lot of different things that have happened, since then that deal with brain, with conscious, with that interaction. So are these things connected?
I could talk on Havana syndrome. I got hit by that once.
Really?
Yeah. Simultaneously, they hacked my phone and put a gun in my Amazon checkout thing, and it was.
Well, that's like a whole targeted individual thing. That's
yeah. It happened right here at the lab. We had a visiting scientist over who was.
I don't even talk about half the stuff that's happened to me because it's like people accuse me of lying and making it up when I do. So I just ignore it and move on. So it's like,
and then they threatened to abduct my daughter and take her on a time machine. Oh, it was crazy shit.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they broke into my apartment and stole my computers. So.
The goal is to discourage you from doing the science. So like,
yeah, I have for 7 years now. I've had a mysterious flu-like symptoms that come and go with alarming speed. I have metal parts in my spine after a racing accident, so I have paresthesia everywhere. But now, in the last 7 years, I've gotten strange bouts of severe nausea for like a day, and then the next day I feel fine, and then ringing in the ears, which also relates to paresthesia, and the doctors can find nothing wrong with me. I said, my God, I've been up all night with fevers, sweating and everything. I go into the doctor's office, he's like, all right. And they take my blood and they do the whole thing. And it's like, we found nothing.
Yeah.
I'm older.
That's very common as far as what I can tell from the research, it's very common with these.
Last 10 years.
I've had that happen to me several times. One time, directed energy weapon. We got them on camera. We got license plate numbers. It was a rental car. It was during COVID, so there was a parking lot across the street. They were parked there, aiming the weapon through the door. The next time it happened to me was I didn't have my equipment grounded properly.
That's when you had that NASA scientist there, right? Amy Eskridge was there.
Amy Eskridge, yes. That's when that happened. The second time it happened was when I didn't have my equipment properly grounded. X-band microwaves, when the wavelength is about that long, that's the length of many of your neuron pathways. And I felt just like you felt. Nausea comes on really fast. You feel like you have a fever and stuff.
Fatigue at the yin yang, like you can't even get out of bed. Fatigue for no reason.
Yeah, and then it's gone. A day, and then it's just gone. And that's when we made tinfoil hats, PPE at the lab. And it goes away.
Really?
Yeah. And if you have those problems again, when you should get yourself a silver mesh cloth. It'll cost you like $150. Cover yourself in it, and that'll protect you from EM waves.
No one talks about these.
I do that.
No one talks about these attacks or these symptoms or anything. I think the more people that talked about them,
well, they think you're making up stories. I mean,
100%.
People. I mean, all the stuff we're talking about is out of most people's wheelhouse by a factor of 1,000. And they're like, oh, these nuts, and they just want to.
Thankfully, something is changing because I heard about this first through the news, the Havana syndrome symptoms that were being talked about, right? And then I looked into it and I found out, from like Gary Nolan and stuff that he was doing research into it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but some of the people who were reporting symptoms of Havana syndrome and were confirmed to have some kind of damage from that experience, right? And neurological damage or some kind of effect happened. They were lumped together early on with experiencers and remote viewers, the brain scans of those people. And they were like, well, they being the government handed this, pile of information onto Nolan, and I think Christopher Green, and had them figure it out. And they were able to easily separate the Havana syndrome victims versus the people who were remote viewing or having psychic experiences, or in some cases, even seeing craft or beings, right? And so, the similarities there are very interesting. But what Gary Nolan then goes on to describe, even in these podcasts and the SALT conference, is that these so-called entities from wherever they are, some higher dimension or whatever, are, interacting with people through their sensory data, like through their sensory input. But it's coming in these very vague, almost like intuitions or even through dreams, like these strange experiences, which I think Havana syndrome shows the same methodology, but more like really, rough. right? There's something else going on where they're forcing, the brain to do certain stuff.